Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel, where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome once again to Off the Chain, and here in this episode of Off the Chain, we're going to continue forward with our series on the original Legend of Zelda for the NES, even though we're playing this on a Nintendo Switch. For those who do not know, you can play a lot of the original titles for the NES on the Nintendo Switch. There's like this little app that you can get, and I don't know the full details of it, but it has a lot of the original titles. So if you never got to enjoy these titles, now you can, which is really awesome, because there's a lot of amazing titles from the old NES days that are just still so much fun even after all of this time. Now, that being said, we are on our way to the third labyrinth. If you do not know, the third labyrinth is the one labyrinth in the original Legend of Zelda that carries a great deal of controversy. So much so that I have ensured that the very, very moment that we get the map, you'll see exactly why this particular map, this particular labyrinth, if you will, when the map comes up, you'll understand why it has so much controversy surrounding it even to this day. Many people, it's definitely one of those moments that, if you will, it is basically an Eastern Asian culture meeting your American Western culture, and when it does not go well, and there was a serious outcry, and so much so that the face of some things in Legend of Zelda actually changed, and because of it, it definitely deserves its very own video. And I will also say openly that when we start discussing that very own video, it was Princess Faye's idea. She felt it was the best way to actually explain so much information, so much detail, that I just, without question, it's one of those things that without a question, it deserves its own video. So, all that being said, at the very moment, what we will be doing is we're actually getting ready to pick up the food, because we're going to need that, at least if I remember correctly, by the 7th labyrinth. One of the things that I like to do in this game is to get everything together, save myself the hassle of worrying about picking it up later. That way, when I get there, all I got to do is go, go, go. All right? All right, at this stage in the game, we're on our way to the third labyrinth, and the third labyrinth is one of the easiest ones to find, because at this stage in the game, what will start happening after the third labyrinth is it starts getting to the point where there's a few of them that you have to have certain items just to get to the labyrinth, or you have to have certain items to actually get through that labyrinth. So that's actually very important. In this particular labyrinth, we will find the raft. Without the raft, we can't go to labyrinth 4. So it's super important that we collect that raft so we can continue in the game. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this particular labyrinth. Again, if you've not been keeping up with the series, when you start talking labyrinths, that's what, if I remember correctly, that's what we used to call. That's what the original guidebook, if you will, the book that came with the game, called the dungeons in the original Legend of Zelda. Now, real quick, if you did not pick up the white sword by now, you're going to have a lot of difficulty. The wooden sword, as it's sometimes called, is just not powerful enough. Those little bitty blobs that I often call the extra large evil Hershey's Kisses, what happens is they'll break apart into the smaller ones, and you can't get any loot from them. So this is a bad thing. You don't want to be caught in that situation, And so if you have not picked up the white sword, now would definitely be the time to do so. Again, you know, usually by now most everyone has already done so. Okay, now real quick, this is also the first time in the game that we start seeing the Dark Nuts. Now, for those that do not know, the Dark Nuts are a heavily armored kind of goblin knight that is in your labyrinths. Now, the problem is that most people don't realize how dang strong they are in the original game. The red ones are, for the most part, pretty easy to get by. You could take them down without too much hassle. But the blue ones, those things are hard to take down, and they hit like a truck. They hit like a Mack truck. I mean, so just kind of a heads up, you know, when you're playing this game, they're going to hit you hard if you're not careful. But if you watch closely, you'll actually see techniques that I've used all these years to kind of get around the Dark Nuts to actually be able to kill them. You cannot kill them from the front. They're too heavily armored. You can kill them from the sides, and you can kill them from the back. You can use bombs, but not all the time do you have enough bombs to just drop down and kill a bunch of them. And then, even then, if you don't hit them with a direct blast behind them, it's almost a waste of time. It just does not do enough damage. So, again, I will be showing little techniques that have kind of helped me over the years, and there's even little secrets where you can kind of hide in the door, or even where you can actually hit them over the top of the bricks, that kind of separate, that are in the room, kind of separate certain sections and all that sort of stuff, kind of like you see in this room right now. You've got those two extra big blocky sections, or like here in this room where it's kind of, it bottlenecks into a certain area. You'll actually see where I'm actually able to hit them over the top of those, but it's one of those things you'll actually have to see it when it happens, okay? It's kind of hard to explain otherwise. If you will, y'all are going to need a visual aid to understand. Right now, what I'm trying to do is just pick up every bit of possible loot that I can, and maybe even try to leave maybe one or two alive, so hopefully they don't respawn when I come out, because I'm in a bottleneck, because right down that little bottleneck is the raft. The raft, is what we're going to need when we go to the fourth labyrinth. Alright, folks, at this stage in the game, I have to confess, I am playing horrible. So horrible, in fact, thank God we picked up the red potion. I mean, I'm playing very badly. Very badly. It's just one of those things. I mean, every once in a while, if I kind of walk away from the game for a little while, for anywhere's up to 3 days, I actually play very horribly. And, there's also a frickin' camera in my way, so, what do you expect? Anyhow, so, thank goodness we picked up the red potion so we can continue forward without me dying. So, now we have the raft. Next stop, we're going to go pick up the map. I will confess, it looks like I'm actually, oh, he's getting all this extra stuff, so the game is easier. Nah, I just forgot where the map was. We're talking, I've been playing this game since it was brand new back in the 80s, and because of that, because of playing it so long, up until this playthrough, I picked the game up for the first time as the making of this video, probably about 6 months ago, and when I did pick this game up, about 6 months ago, I had not played, the original Legend of Zelda since I was 17. So it'd been a long time. And because it'd been so long since I played this game, it's just one of those things that, I cannot remember everything. I'm 40 years old. So what it looks like is, he's, yeah. No, I just forgot where everything was. So, just kind of one of those things. Confession time. Also, while we're talking about it, this game gets very cryptic. When you see a room like this, you've killed everything, but that shutter door won't open. That's because you got to push this block to get it to open. We've done that in other videos, and I guess I really haven't touched base on it, but this game gets really cryptic. And in the second quest, it gets really cryptic. So, just something to think about. Now, while we're also on the subject of things you'll find in labyrinths and, the cryptic stuff you'll deal, I mentioned this in the previous video. The old man inside of a labyrinth, it's not like in the overworld where if you hit him, he just stands there and you can't do anything to him. He can't do nothing to you. No. In the labyrinths, if you hit him in any way, shape, or form, if you try to do serious harm to him, he will actually fight back. These little glow balls come out of the fire, and if you don't have the magical shield, or you're, not standing in a doorway, he will hurt you. So do yourself a favor. Unless you're, unless you're, just kind of standing around, don't stand around and contemplate your navel. And there it is, folks. That's the reason why this game has a controversy. Take a look at the map up in the in your upper left-hand corner, and you'll see exactly why. Again, we're going to do an entire video on why this game has such a controversy because of that one map. The way this map is shaped. Again, it's. I'm going to explain it better in another video, but it's kind of that, again, Eastern, Asian culture, and some of their beliefs and that sort of thing kind of meets Western American culture, and, of course, the problems that came with that. So, all right. Now that we've established that, those little spirit things can't kill you, but they can take away your ability to draw the sword for about 10 seconds. Not a super big deal, but it can be a problem. All right, now this particular boss, most of us over the years have found drop a bomb, and that's the end. Now, if you don't get him in one blast, break out your arrows and go to town, because otherwise he's just really hard to kill. The arrows fly faster than the sword blast, and the more of the claws that come off, the harder he is to kill. All right. Now, there we go. Third Triforce piece. Now that we have the raft, we have our Triforce piece, what we're going to do is we're going to go and collect another heart container, and then, of course, we have to do as we have done in previous videos and use the old school Legend of Zelda game save function. Now, again, I've talked about this, and it's kind of becoming a running gag in this particular series. But let me explain again for those who are just now getting involved in the series, and maybe you don't want to fully backtrack, here in in this series. But I will still recommend that you do so. But for the purposes of those just kind of tuning in, I guess you could say, like an old television show. The way that the save function works on Legend of Zelda is it has a battery save function, but there is no button to actually take you to that. It's not like it is today where, I can hit this button and it'll take me to a menu and I can save my progress right here. That's not the way it works in the original Legend of Zelda. What has to happen is Link has to die, and then it gives you it takes you to this menu screen, and it gives you 3 options. Those 3 options are continue, save, or replay. The replay function, after playing this game for over 30 years, I've never used it. The continue basically picks up right where you left off. Except if you're in the overworld, it takes you right back to the starting point. If you're in a labyrinth, it takes you right to the beginning of the labyrinth. That's just kind of how the game works. And then, of course, there's the save, which takes you back to the file select screen. And that's just how that feature works. Now, that being said, there was no button to get there. Link had to die. So if mom or dad said, "Hey, we need to go see your Aunt Matilda," or "Hey, it's time to eat," that sort of thing. Well, you had to kill Link so you could save where you were in the game. That's just how it worked. And I know I've kind of talked about it, and it's kind of been a running joke, but that's the way it was back then. So for a few videos now, we've continued to show that. It's just one of those things, if you will, the old school first world problems of 80s kids. Because before this game, you had to get so far in the game and use sometimes a ridiculously long cheat code, or for the real industrious types, what we would do is we would turn off the television and basically pause our NES, turn off the television, and not tell mom and dad that we did this because, number one, we're using up the electric, but number two, we were burning up our NES. That wasn't good. And these things barely worked as it was. The old school, blowing the cartridge. Shoot, half the game was trying to get the dang thing to work. But that's the honest to goodness truth. That's the way it was back then. So, for those that do not know, I mean, that's just how, the game was. That's how it was back then. And I know some people, that's kind of also been a meme, here on the internet and even here on YouTube, how the NES was just absolutely just a tough challenge to get it to work. Now, real quick, that particular heart container, later on, we'll be able to get that once we get the ladder. We won't be able to get it until then, even though you would think, that you could get it through those docks. No, you can't. You have to, get it through. You get the idea. All right. Now, here's where we pick up another heart container, which again gets us closer to the magical sword. And of course, we'll do a little bit more grinding, and of course, bring this particular video, to a close. So, really, again, just typical Legend of Zelda gameplay, and of course, the ending of the video, you'll get to see me kill Link. That's just. I'm also going to tell you, one of those old school first world 80s kids problems. If you had the blue ring, or even worse yet, the red ring, oh man, it would take forever to kill yourself on this game. That's just how it was. I mean, it sucked. You'd be sitting there going, gosh dang, how much longer, Link? And mom and dad are screaming, will you hurry the up? Damn. We got places to go, people to see, and, you're like, well, I'm trying to save my game, and they don't understand. It's just kind of how it was. Turn it off. You can just, come on, first world 80s kids problems, if you will. Again, if you remember this game when it was brand new, it was the epic game on the schoolyard. Everyone was talking about it, how far they had gotten, had they beat it yet, that sort of thing. And if you were lucky enough to beat the game when it was brand new and try to talk about it on the schoolyard, well, that was even better. I wasn't fortunate enough. I really did not beat the game until I was, into my teens. That's just kind of how it was, one of them things, I played it a million times. I could get so far, but, it was kind of a struggle. And, like I said, I eventually got to where I could beat the first quest just about in one sitting and probably a couple hours. But, I'm just, that's more hardcore than anything, and I ain't got time for that. Anyhow, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and do the usual. Let me go ahead and give a few shout-outs right here. These are hard-working cogs within the Maverick Nation. You all know that. These people continue to drive me to do better in every video that comes out, and just good people through and through. As usual, if you will, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is. Just remember, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet and do something special for them today. And as always, for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.
Wow, man, freaked out.